A wooden boy hangs from the great oak. The rope is tight around his throat, not tight enough to snap his neck. He's made of wood, after all, and wood doesn't break so easily, but tight enough to strangle, tight enough to slowly crush his windpipe closed. His legs kick uselessly in the cold night air. His wooden hands claw at the noose, but his fingers are stiff, clumsy. He can't get purchase on the rope, can't loosen it, can't save himself. Below him, two figures watch from the shadows. They're wrapped in black charcoal sacks from head to toe. Only their eyes are visible, gleaming in the moonlight. They've been chasing him for hours. Through the forest, past the White House where even the dead girl refused to help him. All the way to this ancient tree. Now they wait. How long? One asks. Soon, the other replies. His legs are slowing. The wooden boy's kicks grow weaker. His carved mouth opens and closes, trying to draw breath that won't come. His painted eyes, once so full of mischief, are bulging. He thinks of his father, the old man who carved him from a piece of screaming wood, who gave him new feet when he burned his own off, who sold his only coat in winter so his puppet son could have a spelling book. He sold that book for a theater ticket, traded his father's sacrifice for an hour of entertainment. He thinks of the cricket, the one who tried to warn him, who told him that children who disobey their parents come to grief, who said that laziness leads only to prison or the hospital. He killed that cricket, threw a hammer and crushed it against the wall. Didn't even feel sorry afterward. His legs stop kicking. His hands fall limp. His head drops forward, chin to chest. The assassins watch a moment longer, making sure. Then they melt back into the forest, leaving the puppet to swing in the winter wind. And that's where the story ends. Not happily ever after. Not he became a real boy. Not when you wish upon a star. The puppet is dead, hanged from a tree, punished for his sins. This is where Carlo Collodi stopped writing. In 1881, when he published this chapter in an Italian children's magazine, he wrote at the bottom, "The story of Pinocchio ends here. The bad puppet got what he deserved. The moral was complete. There was nothing more to say." But we don't know that story, do we? We know the Disney version. The curious puppet with the growing nose. The charming Jiminy Cricket. The kindly blue fairy. The happy ending where wishes come true. The happy ending where the happy ending is the real one. The happy ending is the real one. The happy ending is the real Pinocchio. The real Pinocchio is a monster. He murders the talking cricket in cold blood, crushes it with a hammer for telling him the truth. He betrays his father again and again and again. He's hanged by assassins. He's transformed into a donkey, sold to be drowned and skinned for his hide, swallowed by us. This isn't a story about dreams coming true. This is a story about what 19th century Italy believed children truly were. The savage, selfish, ungrateful creatures who needed to be beaten, starved, and terrorized into becoming human. The savage, ungrateful creatures who needed to be beaten. Pinocchio doesn't earn his happy ending through kindness. He earns it through suffering, through punishment after punishment, until his will is finally broken. Until the bad puppet inside him dies and something better can take its place. The wooden body has to hang from the tree. The donkey has to drown. The old self has to be destroyed. The real lesson of Pinocchio: you cannot become good until the evil in you is killed, and that killing is not gentle. Before we enter this nightmare, if you believe the darkest stories from our past deserve to be told, If you want to understand the horrors our ancestors used to frighten their children into obedience, subscribe to the Midnight Archives. Tonight, we're going to experience the complete original tale of Pinocchio. Every brutal punishment, every betrayal, every death. We'll watch a piece of wood scream as it's carved into a puppet. We'll see that puppet murder its conscience within hours of being born. We'll follow him to the gallows, to the circus, to the slaughterhouse, to the belly of a monster. We'll meet the children of Toyland laughing, playing, free, and watch them transform into donkeys one by one. Their human minds trapped in animal bodies as they're sold into slavery. We'll see a father wait 2 years inside a sea creature for a son who doesn't deserve his love. And we'll understand why Carlo Collodi wanted this puppet dead, why he only kept writing because his editors demanded it, why every chapter after the hanging is borrowed time, a reprieve from a sentence that was always meant to be carried out. This is a horror story that pretends to be a fairy tale, a warning dressed up as entertainment, a nightmare that generations of parents read to their children at bedtime. This is the real Pinocchio, and it begins with a piece of wood that screams, "Welcome to the Midnight Archives." Once upon a time, there was a piece of wood, not a special piece of wood, not enchanted oak from a sacred grove, just an ordinary log, the kind you'd throw on a fire to warm your house in winter. It sat in the shop of a carpenter named Master Antonio. Everyone called him Master Cherry because his nose was always red and shiny like a ripe cherry. He'd been a carpenter for 50 years. He knew timber the way a butcher knows meat. This piece of wood looked like any other. Same color, same grain, same weight when he lifted it. But when Master Cherry raised his axe to begin shaping it, a voice cried out, "Don't strike me so hard." Master Cherry froze, looked around the shop, empty, no one there. He must have imagined it. He raised the axe again. "Stop, you're hurting me." The voice was coming from the wood, from inside the log itself. A human voice, high-pitched, plaintive, afraid. Master Cherry dropped his axe, staggered backward. In 50 years, he'd never encountered anything like this. Wood didn't speak. Wood didn't feel pain. This was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. He needed to get this thing out of his shop. As if in answer, there was a knock at the door. His neighbor Geppetto entered, a poor old man known throughout the neighborhood for his yellow wig and his terrible temper. "I need a piece of wood," Geppetto said. "I want to make myself a puppet, a wonderful puppet that can dance and fence. I'll travel the world with it, earn my bread and wine." Master Cherry looked at the cursed log, the log that screamed. "Take this one," he said, thrusting it at Geppetto. "Please, take it." When the door closed behind his neighbor, Master Cherry crossed himself. "God help you, old friend," he whispered. "God help you both." Geppetto's house was a small room on the ground floor. The furniture was simple: a broken chair, a shabby bed, a ruined table. A fireplace was painted on the wall, painted inside it. A fire with a pot boiling over it, painted steam rising from the painted pot. This was the home of a man who had nothing, who could only paint the things he couldn't afford to own. Geppetto set the wood on his workbench and began to carve. First, the hair. When he finished, the hair moved, shifted on the wooden head, rearranged itself. He continued. The forehead, then the eyes. As soon as he finished the eyes, they turned towards him. He stared at him with an expression that wasn't quite human, too knowing, too malicious. The nose. It began to grow the moment he carved it, longer and longer. He cut it back. It grew again. The mouth. The moment he finished the lips, they parted. The puppet laughed at him, not a child's giggle, a mocking laugh, cruel. He carved the hands. They reached up and snatched the wig off his head. He carved the feet. One of them kicked him in the nose. The puppet was standing now, alive, complete, grinning at him with that carved wooden smile. "I'm going to call you Pinocchio," Geppetto said, rubbing his face. The puppet's grin widened. Then he ran, jumped off the workbench, burst through the door, disappeared into the street. Geppetto chased him. "Stop! Someone stop that puppet!" A policeman saw an old man pursuing what appeared to be a child. He assumed he was witnessing abuse. He arrested Geppetto. Pinocchio walked back to his father's house, let himself in, made himself at home, free. His father was in prison because of him, and he didn't care at all. The house was quiet, empty, except for Pinocchio and the painted fire on the wall. Then he heard a sound, a small sound, coming from the shadows. "Cree, cree, cree." "Who's there?" Pinocchio called out. "I am the talking cricket. I have lived in this room for more than 100 years. Pinocchio squinted into the darkness. There, on the wall near the ceiling, a small shape. An insect. "This is my room now," Pinocchio said. "Get out. I will give you a truth that may save your life if you're wise enough to hear it." "What truth?" The cricket's voice was solemn. "Woe to those children who rebel against their parents, who abandon their homes. They will never come to any good. Sooner or later, they will bitterly regret it. Is that supposed to scare me? Woe to those who refuse to study, who hate books. They will grow up to be donkeys, and everyone will mock them. Shut up, cricket. Woe to those who will not work. Prison or the hospital. That's where laziness leads. I said shut up. Poor Pinocchio, I feel sorry for you." "Sorry? Why?" "Because you are a puppet. And puppets, as a rule, are selfish, thoughtless, wicked. The cricket." Pinocchio's hand closed around a wooden mallet on Geppetto's workbench. He didn't think, didn't hesitate. He threw. The mallet struck the wall, struck the cricket. The talking cricket had just enough time to cry out, "Cree, cree, cree." One final sound cut short. Then it fell, a small broken thing, sliding down the wall, landing on the floor, dead. A creature that had lived 100 years, killed in an instant because Pinocchio didn't like what it had to say. He felt nothing. He turned away from the corpse and went to look for something to eat. The house had no food. Pinocchio went into the village, begging, door to door. "Please, I'm hungry. Just a little food." The first door, "Go away." The second door, "Beggar." "Thief." The third door. A man promised food, then dumped a bucket of ice water over Pinocchio's head. He returned home soaked and freezing, propped his wet feet on a brazier of hot coals, fell asleep. When he woke, his feet were gone, burned away to charred stumps. He collapsed on the floor and began to cry. Hours later, Geppetto returned from prison, found his creation footless and weeping. He should have been furious. Instead, he knelt down and gathered Pinocchio in his arms. "I'll make you new feet," he said. "Even after everything I've done. You're my son. What else would I do?" Geppetto carved new feet. Then he reached into his pocket and produced 3 pears, his own breakfast, and gave them to the puppet. "I want to go to school," Pinocchio said. "I want to be good." Geppetto's face lit up, but Pinocchio had no clothes, no books. The old man left the house. An hour later, he returned carrying a spelling book, but wearing no coat. "Father, where's your coat?" "I sold it so you can go to school." Pinocchio stared at the old man, his thin shirt inadequate for winter, the book in his wrinkled hands. "I'll be good," Pinocchio promised. "I'll take care of you when I grow up. I'll buy you a new coat made of gold and silver. I'll be good." Geppetto smiled and stroked the puppet's wooden hair. He had no idea that Pinocchio would sell that book within the hour. The road to school was long and straight. Pinocchio walked briskly, the spelling book under his arm. "Today I'll learn to read," he told himself. "Tomorrow to write. Then I'll earn lots of money and buy my father a beautiful coat." Then he heard the music, drums and trumpets, bright, festive sounds from somewhere ahead. "A puppet theater," a boy told him. "Only 4 pennies to get in." Pinocchio looked at the spelling book in his hands, the book his father had sold his coat to buy. "One day won't matter," he told himself. "I'll go to the theater today and school tomorrow." He sold the book for 2 pennies, bought a ticket. Inside, puppets danced on strings. They saw Pinocchio and recognized him as one of their own. "Brother, come up here with us." Pinocchio climbed onto the stage. The show stopped. The audience booed. Then Fire Eater appeared, enormous, taller than any man Pinocchio had ever seen. His beard hung to the ground. He stepped on it when he walked. His mouth was wide as an oven. His eyes burned like coals. "Who interrupted my show?" "It was him." The puppets pointed at Pinocchio. Fire Eater studied the wooden boy. "The fire's getting low in my kitchen. I need wood to cook my mutton. You'll burn nicely." 2 puppets grabbed Pinocchio's arms. They dragged him toward the kitchen. He could see the glow of flames. "Please," he screamed, "I don't want to burn." Fire Eater watched the sobbing puppet. Something about those tears gave him pause. "Why are you crying?" "Because I don't want to die. I want to see my father again." "You have a father?" "His name is Geppetto. He sold his coat to buy me a spelling book, and I sold the book to come here, and I'm a terrible son, and I deserve to burn. But please don't kill me." Fire Eater sneezed. His whole body shook with it. When Fire Eater sneezed, it meant his heart was softening. It was his way of crying. "Damn it all," he muttered. "I feel sorry for the old man." He waved at his servants. "Release him." Pinocchio collapsed, sobbing with relief. Fire Eater reached into his pocket and pulled out 5 gold coins. "Give these to your father. Tell him to buy a new coat. Thank you, thank you. Now go home. And don't sell your father's gifts for theater tickets." Pinocchio clutched the coins and ran out into the night. He would go home. He would give his father the money. He would be good. He meant it. But the road home was long, and on that road he would meet a fox and a cat. The sun was setting when Pinocchio noticed 2 figures following him, a fox limping on a crutch, a cat wearing dark glasses tapping with a stick, apparently blind. "Good evening, Pinocchio," said the fox. "Everyone knows you." "A puppet given gold coins by the great Fire Eater. What will you do with such a fortune?" "Buy my father a new coat." "A noble plan. But wouldn't you like those 5 coins to become 1,000? Pinocchio's eyes widened. "How?" "The field of miracles. You dig a hole, put your coins in, water them, and the next morning a tree has grown, a tree covered in gold coins." "That's impossible." "Is it? I was once a poor fox with 2 pennies. I planted them. The next day 200. Pinocchio wanted to believe. If he could turn 5 coins into 5,000, he could buy his father a palace. "Where is this field?" "Not far. We'll take you. But my father will still be there tomorrow. The magic only works at certain times. If you go home now, you'll miss your chance." Pinocchio hesitated. "Then lead the way." On the road, a pale glow appeared, a cricket floating in the air glowing with otherworldly light. "Don't you recognize me, Pinocchio? That voice, the talking cricket. But I killed you." "Yes, and now I've returned as a ghost. Don't trust the fox and cat. They're thieves. Go home. Give the money to your father." Pinocchio felt a flash of the old anger. "I don't believe ghosts. I believe in gold trees." The ghost flickered sadly. "Then you'll learn the hard way." It faded into darkness. Pinocchio walked on. They stopped at an inn. The fox ordered an elaborate dinner. The cat, despite being blind, consumed 35 fish. They feasted on Pinocchio's money, then slipped away at midnight. The innkeeper woke Pinocchio at dawn. "Your friends left? They said you should pay the bill. 1 gold coin gone, 4 remaining." Pinocchio continued alone into the forest. 2 figures emerged from the shadows, wrapped in black charcoal sacks, faces hidden. "Hand over your money," one said. Pinocchio hid the coins in his mouth. "I don't have any." They searched him, found nothing. One grabbed his throat. "Open your mouth." Pinocchio clenched his jaw. The assassin drew a knife. "Open it or I'll cut it open." Pinocchio bit him. His wooden teeth clamped down on the assassin's hand and bit it clean off. But the hand on the ground wasn't human. It was furry. It had claws, a cat's paw. The fox and cat, they'd followed him, set up this ambush. The cricket's ghost had been right. "Chase him," the cat screamed. "Kill him." Pinocchio ran. Pinocchio ran until his wooden legs ached. Behind him, the assassins crashed through the underbrush. Ahead, a light, a white house with a window glowing softly. He pounded on the door. "Help, please." A girl looked out, beautiful, hair the color of midnight, skin pale as moonlight, eyes closed. "Please let me in. Assassins are chasing me." Her voice was soft. "I cannot help you." "Why not?" "Because I am dead. Everyone in this house is dead. I am waiting for my coffin, but goodbye, Pinocchio." She closed the window. The light went out. The assassins burst from the trees. They caught him. They tried to force his mouth open, but he'd swallowed the coins. 4 gold pieces in his stomach. Unreachable. "We'll kill him and wait for his body to soften. Then we'll cut it open." They dragged him to a great oak tree. Tied a noose. Any last words? Pinocchio thought of his father, alone and cold, waiting for a son who would never come home. He thought of the cricket's warning, all the mistakes he'd made. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." They tightened the noose around his neck, hauled on the rope, lifted him off the ground. He dangled there, kicking, choking. His vision faded. His legs kicked slower and slower. Then they stopped. His arms went limp. His head dropped forward. The puppet, who had been alive for less than a week, finally faced the consequences. He hung from the tree, motionless, dead. And here, Carlo Collodi wrote in 1881, ends the story of Pinocchio, the bad puppet. Got what he deserved. Disobey your parents, ignore wise counsel, trust the wrong people, and you will die. Collodi meant this to be the final chapter. He was done with Pinocchio. But his readers disagreed. Children demanded more. The editor pressured Collodi to continue. So, reluctantly, he did. But make no mistake, the puppet was supposed to die here. Everything that follows is borrowed time, a reprieve from a sentence that was always meant to be carried out. Pinocchio hangs from the great oak, and somewhere, unseen, something with blue hair is watching. The blue-haired girl wasn't dead. She was the blue fairy, an immortal spirit who had lived in that forest for 1,000 years. She watched Pinocchio hang from the tree, watched his body go still. Then she summoned a falcon. Cut him down. The falcon sliced through the rope. Pinocchio crumpled to the ground. She sent a poodle dressed as a coachman to bring him to her house. Summoned 3 doctors, a crow, an owl, and the ghost of the talking cricket, to examine him. "Is he alive or dead?" she asked. The crow said dead. The owl said alive. They argued. Finally the cricket spoke. "I knew this puppet when he lived. He's a rogue, a vagabond, a disobedient son who will make his father die of heartbreak." At this, Pinocchio, who had been lying motionless, burst into sobs. "He's alive," the doctors concluded. "Dead puppets don't cry." The blue fairy nursed him back to health, gave him medicine, let him rest in her house. When Pinocchio recovered, the fairy questioned him. "How did you fall into the assassin's hands?" Pinocchio told his story, but lied about the gold coins. "I lost them," he said. "Where did you lose them?" "In the forest." As he spoke, his nose began to grow, longer and longer, stretching outward from his face. "We'll go search for them," the fairy said calmly. "Actually, I remember now. I didn't lose them. I swallowed them when I took my medicine." His nose grew longer, actually longer still, so long he couldn't turn his head, so long birds landed on it. The fairy laughed. "You've told lies, Pinocchio. Lies are easily discovered. There are two kinds, lies with short legs and lies with long noses. Yours has a very long nose indeed." Pinocchio wept with shame. His nose was so long he couldn't move, couldn't escape, couldn't hide. Finally, the fairy took pity. She summoned woodpeckers to peck his nose back to normal size. "I want to become a real boy," Pinocchio said. "Will you help me? You can become a real boy, but you must prove you deserve it. Go to school. Obey your teachers. Tell the truth. I will, I promise. Then I will be your mother, and you will be my son." For a moment, he meant every word. The fairy sent for Geppetto. "He's coming tomorrow," she told Pinocchio. "Prepare a celebration." Pinocchio was overjoyed. He went to invite his school friends to the party. On the road, he met a boy called Lampwick, the laziest, wickedest boy in the village. His face was bright with excitement. "I'm leaving tonight," Lampwick said, "going to Toyland." "What's Toyland?" "The most wonderful country in the world. No schools, no teachers, no books. You play from morning to night. Every day is Saturday. Vacation lasts all year." "That sounds impossible. A coach comes at midnight. It takes boys to Toyland. I'm going. Come with me." "I can't. I promised to wait for my father." "Your father will still be here when you get back. Come on, Pinocchio. No more studying, no more rules. Just play. Forever." Pinocchio hesitated. His father's face appeared in his mind, the fairy's words. But Toyland sounded so wonderful. "Just for a little while," he told himself. "I'll go see what it's like. Then come back." At midnight, the coach arrived. It was pulled by 12 pairs of donkeys. But something was wrong with them. They wore little boots, like humans, and their eyes were wet. The donkeys were weeping. Pinocchio noticed. But he didn't understand. He climbed aboard with Lampwick and 100 other boys. The coach rolled away into the night. They traveled until dawn. When the sun rose, they saw it. Toyland. Streets filled with children, boys playing games, shouting, laughing, no adults, anywhere, no schools, no churches, no courthouses, just play, endless play. "This is the life," Pinocchio shouted. He and Lampwick threw themselves into the chaos. They played games, they broke windows, they drew on walls, they did whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Days passed, weeks, months, 5 months of absolute freedom, 5 months without consequences. Pinocchio had never been happier. One morning, Pinocchio woke with a strange feeling. His ears were itching. He reached up to scratch them. They had grown, longer than before, much longer, and they were covered in gray fur, donkey ears. He ran to the mirror, stared at himself in horror. 2 long, furry ears sprouted from his wooden head. He found a cotton cap, pulled it low to hide them, ran to find Lampwick. Lampwick was wearing a cap too, pulled down to his eyebrows. They looked at each other. "Show me your ears," Pinocchio said. "Show me yours first." They removed their caps at the same time. Both had donkey ears. For a moment, they stared. Then Lampwick laughed. "You look ridiculous." Pinocchio laughed too. "So do you." But as they laughed, something changed. The laughter became higher, stranger. More like braying. Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. They tried to stop, couldn't. The braying continued, tearing from their throats against their will. Lampwick fell forward onto his hands. But they weren't hands anymore, they were hooves. His face was stretching, his nose and mouth pushing outward, becoming a muzzle. Fur sprouted across his body. A tail burst from his spine. Help me, help me. He tried to cry out. What came out was hee-haw. Pinocchio watched in horror, then felt his own body changing. His hands hardened into hooves. His legs bent backward, his face stretched, his nose extended. His ears grew longer still. Fur covered every inch of him. He tried to cry out, tried to call for help. Hee-haw. That's all he could say, the only sound he could make. Within minutes, it was complete. Where two boys had stood, there were now two donkeys. They looked at each other with animal eyes. But behind those eyes, human minds remained, trapped, screaming, unable to speak. This was the true horror. They understood everything. They knew what they had been. They knew what they had become. And they couldn't do anything about it. A door opened. The coachman entered. The same smiling man who had driven them to Toyland. He carried a whip. "Well, well," he said pleasantly, "2 more donkeys for my collection." He walked around them, examining them like livestock. "Every boy who comes to Toyland becomes a donkey eventually," he explained, still smiling. "That's the real business here. I bring them in as boys. I sell them as donkeys. Very profitable." He gestured toward the door. Outside, Pinocchio could see other donkeys being led away by farmers, circus masters, mill owners. "The donkeys who pulled your coach here, those were boys too once. Now they work until they die." He cracked his whip. "Move, you're going to market." Pinocchio was brushed, groomed, and taken to the town square. A circus master examined his teeth, felt his legs, checked his hooves. "Strong," the circus master said. "He'll make a good performer." Money changed hands. Pinocchio. The puppet who wouldn't go to school, who sold his father's gifts, who killed his conscience and ignored every warning, was now property. He would learn tricks, or he would be beaten until he learned. The choice wasn't his anymore. The circus master trained Pinocchio brutally, whipped him when he stumbled, starved him when he was slow, beat him until he learned to jump through hoops, to dance on his hind legs, to bow to the audience. Months passed. Pinocchio performed every night. The crowds laughed and cheered. They threw flowers. They didn't know they were watching a boy trapped in a donkey's body. One night, during a performance, Pinocchio spotted someone in the audience, a woman with blue hair. The fairy. She had come to see what had become of him. He tried to call out to her, tried to say her name. Hee-haw. The crowd laughed. They thought it was part of the act. The fairy's eyes were sad. She raised a hand. And around Pinocchio's neck a golden collar appeared. On it, words were written. "This is the puppet Pinocchio, who became a donkey." Then she vanished. That night, Pinocchio jumped wrong. His leg twisted. He fell badly. The circus master examined him the next morning. "Lame," he pronounced. "Useless." He sold Pinocchio to a man who made drums. The drum maker explained his craft simply. "Donkey hide makes the best drums. I'll drown you in the ocean. Let the water soften your skin. Then I'll peel it off and stretch it over a drum frame." He tied a stone around Pinocchio's neck, led him to a cliff overlooking the sea. "Nothing personal," the man said, "just business." He pushed. Pinocchio fell. The stone dragged him down. Water filled his nose, his mouth. Darkness closed in. This was the end. He was going to die at the bottom of the ocean, alone. Having never said goodbye to his father, never becoming a real boy, never making things right. Then movement in the water, fish, hundreds of them, swarming around him. They ate his flesh. Not the puppet underneath, just the donkey. They stripped away the fur, the hooves, the animal body, and what remained at the bottom of the sea was a wooden puppet. Pinocchio. Just a puppet again, alive. He slipped free of the stone and swam toward the surface. He burst from the water, gasping, laughing, alive. He was alive. The drum maker stared down from the cliff in shock. He'd thrown in a donkey, and now a wooden boy was swimming away. "My donkey hide," he screamed. "Come back." Pinocchio. Pinocchio swam as fast as he could, away from the cliff, away from the man, toward open ocean. He swam for hours. The shore disappeared behind him. Nothing around him but water and sky. Then a shadow beneath the surface, something enormous rising from the deep. Pinocchio looked down and saw a mouth larger than a house, 4 rows of teeth, each tooth as long as his body, jaws opening wide, the terrible dogfish, a sea monster so massive it swallowed too slow. The mouth was everywhere, the jaws closed around him. Darkness, the stench of rotting fish, a sensation of sliding, falling, tumbling down a long, wet tunnel. Then silence. Pinocchio lay in darkness. He was inside the monster. In its stomach, if this creature had a stomach. The space around him was vast, larger than any room he'd ever been in. The walls were wet and organic, pulsing faintly. The smell was overwhelming, fish and decay, and something older, darker. He should be dead. He wasn't. Then he saw it, a light, faint and distant, but definitely there. A candle, flickering in the darkness. He walked toward it. The floor squelched under his feet. Shapes moved in the shadows. Other things the monster had swallowed. Wreckage of ships, bones. The light grew closer. A table, a chair, a candle burning low, and sitting at the table. An old man with a white beard, thin and frail, a candle wearing ragged clothes. He screamed, and the big dog. Then this monster swallowed my boat. I've been surviving on raw fish ever since. 2 years. His father had been trapped in the belly of a monster for 2 years, alone, waiting, hoping his son would somehow find him. "I'm so sorry," Pinocchio whispered. "I'm so sorry for everything." "You're here now," Geppetto said. "That's all that matters." "We have to get out," Pinocchio said. "I have a plan." The monster had asthma. It slept with its mouth open, breathing the night air. If they waited until it slept, they could walk right out. That night, they made their move. They crept up the monster's throat, through its mouth, past those terrible teeth, out into the open air. The monster was floating near the surface, mouth agape, snoring. Pinocchio helped his father climb onto the creature's tongue, then down, over its lip, into the water. "I can't swim," Geppetto said weakly. "I'm too old, too tired. Hold on to my shoulders," Pinocchio said. "I'll swim for both of us." Through the dark water they went, Pinocchio's wooden arms pulling, 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 his father's weight heavy on his back. A tuna fish appeared beside them, another creature that had been swallowed and escaped. "I'll help," the tuna said. "Climb on." They rowed the tuna to shore, collapsed on the beach, exhausted but alive. For the first time in his existence, Pinocchio had put someone else before himself, had sacrificed his own safety for another. It felt strange. It felt right. Geppetto was sick. The 2 years inside the monster had broken his health. He could barely walk, barely speak. Pinocchio found them shelter, a small hut belonging to a farmer who had died. He laid his father on a bed of straw and covered him with his own jacket. "I'll take care of you," he promised. "I'll make everything right." He found work. A farmer needed someone to carry water from the well. Back-breaking labor hauling heavy buckets from dawn to dusk. Pinocchio did it without complaint. Every penny he earned went to his father. Milk and bread and medicine. At night, he taught himself to weave baskets, sold them in the village for extra money. He didn't play, didn't rest, didn't complain. Months passed. Geppetto slowly recovered, and Pinocchio slowly changed. One night, Pinocchio dreamed. The blue fairy appeared to him. She was smiling. "You have done well," she said. "You worked hard to help your father. You suffered without complaint. You put someone else's needs before your own." "I tried," Pinocchio said. "I really tried, I know. And because of that, I forgive all your past mistakes. Tomorrow you will have your reward. You will have your reward. You will have your reward." Pinocchio woke up. Sunlight streamed through the window, but something was different. The light felt warmer somehow. The air felt different on his skin. His skin. He looked at his hands. They weren't wooden. They were flesh, pink, and soft and warm. He touched his face, not carved wood, real skin, real cheeks, a real nose that didn't grow when he lied. He ran to a mirror. A boy looked back at him, a real boy, hair and eyes and skin and everything. "Father," he shouted. "Father, look!" Geppetto appeared in the doorway. His eyes went wide. "Pinocchio, it's me. I'm real. I'm a real boy." They embraced, both weeping. The old man and the boy he'd carved from cursed wood, finally together, finally whole. Later that morning, as they celebrated, Pinocchio noticed something in the corner. A figure slumped against a chair, lifeless, discarded, the old puppet, his former body, the wooden shell he'd worn for so long. Pinocchio walked over to it, looked down at the painted eyes, the carved smile, the joints where strings once attached. "How ridiculous I was when I was a puppet," he said quietly. "How glad I am to have become a real boy." He was looking at his own corpse, his old self, dead and empty. The puppet had to die so the boy could live. That was the trade. That was the price. Outside, the sun was shining. His father was healthy. They had money now. The fairy had left gold coins as a reward. Everything was perfect. But in the corner, the wooden body remained, a reminder of what he'd been, what he'd done, what it cost to become human. The puppet is burned, hanged, transformed, drowned, eaten alive. He loses his feet, loses his freedom, loses his humanity, and Collodi believed he deserved all of it. In 1883, Italy, children weren't seen as innocent. They were seen as savage, selfish creatures who needed to be broken before they could become civilized. Education wasn't a gift. It was a beating that shaped you into something acceptable. The punishments in Pinocchio aren't excessive. They're the point. This is how society believed children learned through pain. When Collodi wrote this story, Italian children were dying in factories. They worked in coal mines, in textile mills, in fields. They carried loads that broke their backs. They breathed air that destroyed their lungs. Many didn't live to see adulthood. The transformation into donkeys isn't fantasy. It's social commentary. Children who refused education became laborers. They worked like animals until they died. Toyland, that paradise of play, represents the seductive trap of laziness. And the donkeys being sold at market. Those are real children, real workers, real victims of a system that used them up and threw them away. Collodi knew these children. He saw them every day. Pinocchio was his warning to them. Learn, obey, work, or this will be your fate. Disney gave us a puppet who learns through gentle adventure. Collodi gave us a puppet who learns through torture. We've sanitized this story because we don't want to believe it. We want childhood to be innocent. We want lessons to be kind. We want happy endings that don't require suffering. But echoes of Collodi's world remain. Children still get called lazy, still get told they need discipline, still hear that suffering builds character. The idea that harsh treatment makes better people hasn't disappeared. It's just hidden better. Pinocchio's corpse sits in the corner, reminding us what we used to believe. We want to believe what some still believe, that children are puppets, that they need their strings pulled, that they must be broken before they can become real. Somewhere right now, a child is being punished for not meeting expectations. Somewhere, a child is learning that love is conditional, that they must earn the right to be treated as human. The rope is still waiting. The donkey ears are still growing. The monster's mouth is still opening. Collodi wrote this story 40 years ago. He wanted it to end with a hanging. He wanted the bad puppet to die. But we brought him back. We gave him a happy ending. Maybe that says something about us. Maybe we want to believe that redemption is possible, that suffering can lead somewhere good, that even the worst children can become real. Or maybe we just couldn't bear to leave him swinging from that